The following is a presentation of Muddy River News.
Hi, this is Ron Kincherf, and this is the Book Nook, brought to you by the Quincy Public Library. Make sure you check out their website, quincylibrary.org, for all the activities they're going to have this spring and summer. And it has been confirmed the Bookmobile will be here this spring, so that's something to look forward to. We've got Steve Looten with us, well known throughout the tri-state area, and you have created a book.
I have.
Called Be a Great One, and the inspiration for this book was the 2024 campaign.
Yeah.
So how did that seed get planted, and how did we end up where we're at with this thing in your hands?
It was in the summertime,
right?
And I watched a lot of the coverage of everything in the summertime, and I started hearing things, and so somewhere during the summer I thought, I wonder if there's something there. I certainly didn't know that I'd be writing a book for sure, and so through the conventions, through the rallies. The incident in Butler, Pennsylvania, where Donald Trump's talking about fight, fight, fight. There was stuff there I thought, well, there's some inspirational things happening here. And so I just started gathering information. Through all that, all the way through the election night, I just kept gathering things. And then on election night, I thought, I wonder if there's something here. And then when I started adding things to it, then, but on election night, I pretty much decided, let's see if I can come up with and write something.
Okay. And so what was the message you were hearing through the summer that you thought would be a theme throughout to put a book together?
Well, I certainly think that the motivation for that group of people to try to make things better was kind of an overriding thing. Now, whether you agree with the message or not, I don't get into policy or anything like that. But I started hearing that, and I started thinking, can I turn this into a book that hopefully is motivational and inspirational? Because, at age 65 last year, I went back to television, and I was too old to do that. But it was great, and whether you're 65 or 40 or 30 or 25 or graduating from high school, you can start the improvement project, and so that's where the book is supposed to be going. Hopefully, getting people to maybe they'll read something and say, "Well, I can do what I thought I wanted to do."
It's interesting you bring up, whether we're at a late age or not, but it's still finding some sort of thing that you feel like you can give back or create, because we're in a more comfortable stage of our life.
Yeah.
We don't have to worry about meal on the table for kids and housing and all that type of stuff. So your mind goes to different places, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, and those of us, you're part of this certainly too. When you have been creative in your life, you want to keep being creative. And so for me, it was like, can I do this? And I really enjoyed the challenge to myself of can I put something like this together? Can I make it something that people will enjoy? I don't know.
Yeah.
But it has been a challenge, but a creative challenge is a great challenge.
What I think would be difficult about the format of your book, and it's a lot of quotes that are themed from all different types of people.
Yeah.
A lot of different types of people.
Yeah.
And would be knowing when to stop looking for additional quotes. So how was that challenge?
Well, I wanted to stay somewhat in a motivational theme.
Right, I got that, but there's so many things you could have chosen.
There are.
Yeah.
There are. And so I thought I had enough political quotes gathered, and that stopped on election night. I didn't do anything after that. But then I started looking for other things. And so it came down to what other quotes can I find about motivation, inspiration, determination, things like that. So you go do that. And then I think of, well, I really like this person. I wonder if they ever said anything good. And so you start looking for individuals that might have said something. And then the fun for me was finding the other stories that I put in there. There's some teams around here that I mentioned that I found to be inspirational. At the very end of the book, there's a list of former athletes and coaches around here that I found very inspirational. They're only mentioned, but I thought of them. And to me, they're the ones that are the heroes in my world,
right?
And so that I wanted to make sure to get them in there. So there's a bunch of them from all over.
And you have a lot of your life experiences in there too.
Yeah.
That certain aspects, situations that you found yourself in that provided inspiration to you too. We don't want to spoil what those are, but I think that's an interesting mix too. What I found very interesting is you have the folks from the 2024 election on the Republican side, but then all of a sudden you have quotes from I don't want to say random, but people from the other side of the aisle.
Right.
And also, you mentioned sports people. It's like, oh my, wow. It was kind of surprising as you go through the book, the different people that you found.
Yeah, I personally didn't find much inspiration in the candidates that were running on the Democratic side.
Right.
I thought they struggled tremendously with this election and this campaign. But there are others from history who have been great inspiration. So there are quotes in there from John F. Kennedy, from Angelo Maya, Nelson Mandela, because they've said things that anybody should be able to pull from. And that was fun to find the other things that I thought people would enjoy. And then I have a quote from every president. I thought, what have other presidents been faced with? And so I not the quotes that we all know, but I tried to find other quotes that they could provide.
So you wrote a book that was inspired by the campaign, but is not political.
Okay, I'll take that.
Am I right?
Well, yeah, because I don't talk policy at all.
Right.
I don't want to, and I know that most of the people that read this book will probably be people who follow the Republicans.
Right.
But I also have many friends who are Democrats. I don't want to make them mad. I don't want them to sit there and go, I can't believe it's not one of those kind of books. And so hopefully, even in small town politics that we're seeing here in the city, if you know all three candidates, well, you're going to make somebody mad no matter what you say.
Right.
And so I stay out of that. I don't want anything to do with that. And I tried not to do that here.
So you had not, being in the business industry that you had not thought about creating anything like this or writing any type of fiction or nonfiction book until you were sitting down watching the 2024 election.
That's not totally true.
Not totally
I had
true.
thought of some other things.
Oh,
I had
okay.
some other ideas that had been percolating in my head. I started a thing a few years ago, and not like this kind of a book, but I had written two other books in recent years.
Okay.
One was the first Quincy University women's sports team. It was a field hockey team.
Right.
I wrote that book, and it was pretty much for them.
Right.
Okay, so it didn't go out. It never made the bestseller list. It just fell short. But then after I got done with that one, my wife says, "You got another book you got to write." And she goes, "I've been listening to the stories of your college friends who played basketball at Northeast Missouri State. I've been hearing those stories for years. You need to write that down so that you all still have those stories." And so I wrote that book, and that one, we got rid of 32 copies of that.
That's
The play, and I told him, I said, "This is just for you. No one else is getting it. Just the players are getting this." So those I had written two others.
Okay, but now that you have done this,
This is different.
First, two questions here. What challenges during this process did you face that you never thought?
Oh my gosh! And I've told people this story. When you start thinking, okay, how do I get this published? How do I get this distributed? Honestly, the first person I thought of was you.
Okay.
Because a couple of years ago at your class reunion, we had a fairly lengthy conversation about you writing your books, and so I was curious what you had thought, and so I actually researched you to see what have you said, because I always knew that you were very happy with your publisher,
Right.
Indies United Publishing, and Lisa Orban, who she lives here.
Yep.
And so I researched you. What did you say? I researched that. What did they say? I am certainly not experienced in this, but my belief is the publishing business can be cruel.
It is?
From what I can tell.
Yes.
But you said so many nice things about how they treat their authors. Why would I keep searching for somebody and take somebody's word that I don't know when I know of you? I've known you for 35 years, and I trust you.
Right.
And so that helped a lot by just feeling like I had made the correct decision. And she's been great.
Yeah.
Just fantastic.
But outside of that challenge,
Okay,
though, there's got to be something that's like, boom, slapped you in the face, like, oh my God, I hadn't thought about that.
Well, certainly getting the word out. You can't sell a book unless
No.
the word gets out.
Yeah.
And so there's been some things I've tried, things I'm trying. That will be the challenge for the next several months is what can I feel like has been done and has been successful. I personally, here's a game plan. I want to try to get this into some hands of people who have many people who might like this.
Right.
To say, hey, I really like that little book, and give it a plug. That's what my goal is. But I also heard the other day, quit trying to hit home runs, settle for a whole bunch of singles.
It's It's a very interesting industry. I mean, we can go offline and talk about that, but yeah, that the biggest challenge is marketing. That's the big elephant in the room that people don't think about. Is you're going to write a book, you have all the costs associated with writing a book, and there's costs associated with writing the book. But then, in order to recoup that cost, you have to sell it.
Yeah,
and that's the big elephant in the room.
And I think this is the same as you, but certainly for me, I don't have a goal of I have to sell this for me to be happy. I'm happy now. You know, and this other stuff is fun for me. And so if I sell, I told some people I want to sell 45 books because that's more than I sold the TU books. Okay,
right.
So if I sell 45, I beat that record. I don't know if 500 would make me happy. I don't know if 200.
I tell you what,
more.
my goal would be to break even.
Yeah,
sell enough books where you're, you know, and if you're happy doing it, continue to do it. But that would be a goal in the back of my head would be, you know, because I'm not there yet, but you know, maybe you will be someday.
Well, who knows?
So what's next on your list? Is there another book like this? Do you have any other thoughts?
Probably not another book like this.
Okay,
because I don't want to just do. I don't want to just do this.
What are you thinking about? Are you want to continue down this path, or are you done?
I might continue. It's been interesting. I don't have something in my head say, oh, I know this is what's next. But you do think about what would be next. And I've thought about it, but I haven't thought a lot about it. Because my golf game is really bad, and it always has been. I'd like to get a little better this year.
Right.
So this is this year's project, and I'm 66. How many more years I got, you know?
Yeah, but once
2 or 20, I don't know.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see as you know what you went through to do this, what ideas are going to pop in your head.
Yeah.
That's going to be the interesting thing.
Well, and I tell you, having been part of this publishing group, you see what others are doing.
Yeah.
And honestly, I sit there and go, well, these people are writers. You create something in your head and you put it on paper. That's not what this is.
Well, that's why I was surprised that you went this route and didn't do a nonfiction biography type book about, you know, Glenn Jacobs wrote the foreword in this book, and you've known Glenn Jacobs, who was Kane, WW.
Yeah.
He wrote the foreword in this book, has been a politician. That's the part that's like a biography about Glenn or some, you know, just that would have been the angle I thought you went with your history.
You know, Glenn he came to Quincy to play basketball for Cheryl Hanks.
Right.
Cheryl Hanks retired, and he chose to go to Kirksville. Well, I went to Kirksville. So a lot of his friends were many of my friends. When he retired, when he left Kirksville, I went up and did a story with him. I said, what are you going to do? And he goes, well, I got to try out with the Bears, but I don't know if my knee's going to let me do that. He goes, but I'm also thinking of going to professional wrestling. And I thought, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And here he is he's a Hall of Famer in the WWE, one of the most popular, and everybody knows who Kane is.
Yes.
And so, having talked to him about his wrestling before he ever did any of it, I just thought there was a tie there. And so when I contacted him, I said, you know, you're the only guy that knows me and Donald Trump.
Right.
I need you to write the forward. And so, and
that's
he
pretty
did
interesting. Yeah. Thanks for coming in and doing this.
Oh,
and good luck.
It.
All right.
Thank you.
Steve Looten, this is the Book Nook. I'm Ron. Where do you get it?
Yeah, it'll be for sale April 16th. That's the launch date.
Well,
it'll be everywhere.
Everywhere. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. April 16th, my wife's birthday. Good choice.
Yeah.
Book Nook, brought to you by the Quincy Public Library. I'm Ron Kincher for Muddy River News.
What will Linda Moore do for Quincy?
Fix our neighborhoods and our streets.
Grow collaboration.
Fix Quincy's finances.
Grow opportunity.
Fix the dysfunction.
Grow affordable housing.
Grow local business.
Early voting starts March 7th. Vote for Linda Moore to be Quincy's next mayor April 1st. Paid for by the committee to elect Linda Moore for Quincy.